Hello, welcome to the 44th episode of the Krackle Comics Weekly Comic Book Review Podcast. That's the show's name, I guess. It's been 44 episodes. We'll figure out one eventually. I'm Mike, joined alongside
Dan.
And Vincent.
How was Thanksgiving, boys?
It was all right.
What are you thankful for?
Comics when they don't suck.
Okay. How many times a year is that for you?
60% of the year.
Out of 52 weeks, probably like, I don't know, a quarter of them.
Okay.
Oh, like he's like
Dan,
out of
what are you thankful for?
a quarter of them. Like you could just say a quarter of the year. Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah. Everyone's safe. Everyone's sound. It's good. It was a fun week off, and then we come back to a pretty huge week of books, like King in Black, the Justice League Endless Winter, Batman, Catwoman. So it was a pretty huge week to come back to, but there was an event that concluded last week that we've covered. Well, Vince has covered the previous 17 parts. So it's only fair if you conclude the first I guess the last 3 parts of X of Swords. So we'll start the show with you doing a X of Swords recap.
Yes. And for what it's worth, I never 100% understood if it's X of Swords or Ten of Swords. I don't really care though. So this is the final 3 chapters of this 22-part epic. X-Men number 15, Excalibur number 15, and Ten of Swords, X of Swords, Destruction number 1. So I'm just going to combine them all essentially. So Apocalypse fights his wife. That's the final challenge in the tournament. He wins, but he doesn't end up killing her. So then she puts back on her helmet and summons her horde of evil, hungry thingy-jiggies. And Cyclops and Jean, they're ready to go on a suicide mission to rescue everyone after Jean was very briefly able to connect with her son, son Cable. In one of the previous issues, and in order to do this, if they do this, they're sacrificing their seats on the council. So, as X-Men moves forward, that's going to be a thing, rejiggering the council and stuff. Jubilee also shows up again because she wants to rescue her son, Shogo. Everyone ends up getting surrounded by the hungry, demon thingies from Apocalypse's wife, and then the multiversal Captain Britain Corps show up, which just means the Iraqi call in their reinforcements, but then the X-Men show up, and then Cable unlocks the portal for some Annihilation Wave style aliens that we saw previously to show up to turn the tide again. And that's further these characters are basically, they're from a alternate world where they've examined and eaten everything. So it's basically the Annihilation Wave, but that's further but also Apocalypse's wife, her army it's the same thing, and then it's further confused by the person who wears that helmet calling themselves Annihilation. And eventually Apocalypse grabs the mask and puts it on and surrenders to Otherworld and Saturnine. And so then Saturnine stops the whole thing and everyone's chill, but they have to make a trade. So the Iraqi mutants and the Krakoan mutants, they have it's like a prisoner swap. So Apocalypse rejoins his wife and his family, and he thinks of the kind of genius loophole where it's hey, the island of Araco is a mutant, just like Krakoa is a mutant. So I'm going to go hang with these people, but Araco is going to be reunited with Krakoa. So ultimately his kind of major goal is accomplished here. I don't know. It was fine. It does set up, some major status quo things moving forward, as far as Araco and Krakoa being reunited, and that also means that several of these characters that were, quote unquote, the villains and stuff, I believe they'll be sticking around. Whereas Apocalypse is off the board for a while, but his last word is I will see people again someday. And Catherine Britain's still dead, Betsy, and that's pretty much it. And then earlier on, Rock Slide is dead, and I forget who else and such. And all the Hellions. I think an issue of Hellions came out this week, also an issue of X Factor, but neither of those books I'm keeping up with on an issue-to-issue basis. So I'm not sure, because Havoc is dead, so-and-so is dead. Though actually, I think most of them actually die on Krakoa. So I think they get brought back. I don't know. I mean, the crossover overall, it was kind of just fine. I mean, I don't know. It was fine. It was not at all what I expected, but it was kind of fun. I actually, though that being said, even though these were last week's books, I'm going to say, despite my lack of enthusiasm, I enjoyed this more than the two biggest books we're talking about this week. And I'll kind of tease that as we transition into other stuff. You're muted.
That's quite the take, as we're right at the beginning of the show. But I have to ask, are you sticking with the X-Men books? Am I coming back to the X-Men books? I think Marauders is out next week.
Well, I can't answer that, your question for yourself.
Right.
I'm not really sure. I might give it like 2 weeks and then see if I give up. Because this does, the status quo moving forward is not 100% clear, and it's also kind of interesting. And I was enjoying those books.
Yeah, I like Marauders a lot, and it looks like, at least from the covers, like they're picking up the plot lines that we saw.
So I don't know. I think I'm going to continue.
All right. Well, with that, we'll get into the Batman corner here with the 104 and then Batman Catwoman.
So, our first DC issue is Batman number 104, written by James Tynion, art by Ryan Benjamin and Danny Mickey, Bengal and Gulem March. Apologize if I butchered anyone's name there. A lot of creators on this book, so that's always good to see. Batman is being stitched up by Ghostmaker in Arkham while Nightwing is busting up a robbery. And Nightwing provides some context to, I guess that's Barbara. I'm not really sure. I forget from last issue, but he's talking to her about Batman and Robin's first interaction with the Ghostmaker. And we kind of get some backstory on that and how Batman and Ghostmaker were kind of raised, I guess, together in martial arts and learned together. And once Bruce saw what Ghostmaker wanted to do with Gotham, he kind of fought him, and then they went their separate ways. I don't know, amicably, I guess, if that's the word. Back in Arkham, Clown Hunter and Harley Quinn wake up because all three of them were kind of taken hostage by the Ghostmaker. And after some arguments, Clown Hunter actually breaks free from his stretcher that he was strapped on and holds a sword over Harley's throat, which is where our issue ends. So I wonder if the Clown Hunter is going to kill a clown. We'll have to wait until next issue. Or yeah, we're going to see the Clown Hunter is going to kill Harley. But yeah, I don't know if I want to stay on this book. I think we both decided we're going to stick through this arc, but nothing really interesting in this issue to me. Just some more backstory, and I don't know. This guy doesn't really appeal to me that much. So
yeah, I've been critical of the James Tynion run a lot. There's something about it that I'm just not liking. And then Ryan Benjamin, Danny Miki, Bengal, and then Guillaume March all on the issue. I don't know why there's 4 artists on this book. And then we got the cool Jorge Jimenez cover, but at the same time, there's 4 artists on this book. Why aren't there just one? Clown Hunter's not that great. He's putting them in the situation of Clown Hunter can kill Harley, so Batman has to stop him. That's how Clown Hunter will prove that Batman's methods are wrong or whatever. I'm still banking on that Clown Hunter is going to end up becoming Harley's little sidekick or something. The way they've been playing off each other, at least that's what I'm thinking. Because there's no way Clown Hunter gets turned into another Batman sidekick that we don't care for. It's just that's like he doesn't need another sidekick, you know. So though I'll say this, Dan, for pure speculation, you know, in January we're getting Suicide Squad relaunched, and Harley's not part of the team, and that'll be the first time since 2011 that Harley isn't part of the Suicide Squad. So maybe she does die here. She probably won't though. Like she definitely isn't, but you know, something to think about. But yeah, this I'm gonna give this the arc and see what else he has planned because this feels really filler. But I don't know, man. I just there's something about it I just don't like. Too many hens in the hen house. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's not good.
But we'll get into Batman Catwoman, where I'm sure Vince and I we'll talk about this. This is Batman Catwoman #1, Tom King, Clayman, Tomomori. Don't know what you guys thought, but this was definitely the Batman book I've been waiting for a while. I'm going to say, first off, Clayman's art here is gorgeous. I think he's upped his game on everything here from what we've seen from the beginning of his Batman work and now. I think this is simply a masterpiece. It's just beautiful artwork here with the Tomomori's colors. I am curious to hear your guys' takes on the more experimental transitions here, as we're going with 3 running timelines, but I feel like they're very creative and keep the flow with the book. But I did have to like adjust to it at first because you know there's no panel breaks; it's kind of layered on top of each other. It's experimental, but I think it's cool and looks. I mean, it depends on your mileage may vary on that. King and Man have said that this is tale spinning from past, present, and future, and we get a heavy dose of that here, as the timeline's constantly changing every few pages to lay the groundwork. The future that we at least know is that from Batman Annual #2, where Bruce passes away, surrounded by the Bat family, that King did in, like I said, the Annual with Lee Weeks. But the opening here is Andrea Beaumont coming to Bruce, asking her to find her son who's run away. And that's the present. And then the future, Selina's driving to the coast to meet an old friend. We'll get to who that is in a moment. But Batman and Catwoman fight the Batman animated series villain Sewer King from the Underdwellers episode. And they learn that he was staying under the Wayne Bridge with a man who said he could take him to his father. And when Batman finds him, Andrew Beaumont, who's the name of the son, is dead with the mark of the Joker. He's got his face is white and he's got the Joker smile. The issue details Andrea's history with the Joker, like fully referencing the events of Mask of the Phantasm, the animated movie that ties into with the animated series. So this is Black Label. They're adopting that here. That fully happened the way it happened. It looks like. And in the future, Selina tells this man he's meeting that Bruce is dead, and he starts to kind of have a full down breakdown. And if you were keenly paying attention, he's got those green eyes. And he starts laughing and he turns into the Joker. So since Bruce is gone, he's not there to stop Selina from what she's going to do to him for what he did to Andrea, as he kind of begins to morph back into the Joker with his clown laugh. And it looks like it seems that Selina's going to kill him since Bruce isn't there to stop her now. Lots going on here. I think it's, at this point, it's a very Tom King #1. So strap in for 11 more parts of this. Get off now. If you don't like this, and if you don't like Tom King's Batman, you're probably not going to enjoy this. Or if you like Tom King more all in one and go, wait for the hardcover that'll be out. There's a lot of callbacks here to the movie, and just the framing of certain sequences, like the ones with Alfred's rip right from the movie. A lot of animated series callbacks here. I think it's a beautifully spun web for me. I'm excited to see where it goes, but like I said, if you don't like Tom King's Batman, and Dan, I'm curious to hear from you because I think we were in the same room when Mask of the Phantasm was playing, but you told me you weren't paying attention. So I don't know how you're much familiar with that movie and what's going on, but you at least read the latter half of Tom King's Batman, but I don't think you read the Annual, so you're not even familiar with the future that's already been set up in different places here or there. Vince, I know you haven't read at least that issue and seen the movie, so let's open it up to a little panel discussion and see some thoughts here, gentlemen. Vince, you want to go first? Do you want to let Dan go first? Because I feel like it's going to be mostly you and me back and forth here.
I think Dan should go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just squeeze in my little 2 cents here. So #1, I definitely am going to read the second issue. Definitely want to read more about this. I don't know. There's just something about these characters. I like the chemistry with the two. There's a lot of cool moments in here where I don't know. I just bought into the chemistry that this book is trying to obviously emphasize and go for. I did not know about the Sewer King being a Batman the Animated Series villain. So that's kind of cool to see that in like a mainstream comic, I guess, or series here. I don't know. I'll see how it is, but I like what I see so far. I do like the little theme with like Silent Night playing throughout the whole thing, kind of appropriate because it's December now, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, that's really all I got. I thought it was good, so I'll let Vince jump on his soapbox.
Well, I mean, I don't think that I have a ton to say about this, but first I'll have a question. So
Yeah.
the Sewer King there here.
Yeah.
So I believe he was created for the show. Maybe I think that's right.
Yeah, he was created for the show.
I'm sure he's appeared in comics before. I'm sure this is not his first
I
appearance.
looked it up. He appeared in like one thing reimagined in the New 52. He's not really been
Yeah.
used, if at all.
I mean, yeah. I mean, he's kind of. I actually feel like he's. I mean, for some reason, I kind of in my head, I think of him similar to Ratcatcher. I
Well,
guess Ratcatcher.
both are in sewers.
Yeah, I guess Ratcatcher's in the sewers a lot. So maybe they didn't use him because they're like, he's kind of redundant. I don't know.
Well, they used it because the Sewer King has like his army of kids in the sewers with the underdwellers, and then that's why.
Here's the thing here. So he's talking to Selena about this history they share. Number one, I mean, if the Sewer King hasn't appeared in comics, obviously, that's a new thing in the comics, which I'll get to in a second. But is that part of her origin in the show, or do they ever, delve into that?
No, it's the whole thing with the Sewer King references her son, who's never referenced in the movie. That's that.
No. But what I'm saying is the Sewer King references that Selena used to be one of his kids.
Oh,
In this
that.
book.
I think that's a thing for here.
Yeah, so that's. I mean, if it is on the show, it doesn't make that much of a difference. But also, like, that goes to the big. I mean, it's kind of pointless because of the future timeline and everything. And also, I guess this is officially Black Label now, and this doesn't matter, or maybe it does. But this book is not canon. I mean, from the future level, but also, if it was canon, kind of low key, Tom King is changing Catwoman's origin, which is kind of a huge deal. I'm not super mad at it, but it's interesting to consider. But I mean, it doesn't really matter. This book's not really officially canon. I mean, I don't think there is a canon of DC.
Yeah. I guess going to the canon thing, at least what they've said in interviews, it's the same thing that they're kind of leaning towards with Three Jokers, where like elements are probably going to be taken. Like it's all based on sales. Whether you like Three Jokers or not, it sold a lot. So someone eventually is going to take those elements and make part of it canon. Just with the same thing that's going to happen with this. Like,
and with King, the ambiguity of it is exactly the same as Rorschach as well right now. It is interesting that he hasn't been on an ongoing title at this point, it's a while. And there's going to be this window where King has 3 of these 12-issue Black Label books going at the same time, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Because this is kind of his brand, and he's now, he has 3 at the same time. I mean, the art is fantastic. Like, I'm not gonna, nitpick Clayman at all. It was, stellar, everything, and coloring.
I think it does Jim Lee better than Jim Lee.
I mean, it's not. I mean, he doesn't look like Jim Lee. I don't think he looks like Jim Lee, but kind of the general aesthetic and stuff.
His Batman looks like him sometimes because they both gives him the stubble. It doesn't look that much at all like now. It's changed a little bit.
Yeah, I mean the designs and stuff, but I'm just saying, it's not the same. It's not a similar style, really. But my main thing here is I just think, and maybe it's because for the show we're reading, and especially me, I'm usually kind of rushing through and late anyways. I read a lot of these things last minute, but like I think maybe he's actually executing it well on a technical level. But the 3 parallel timeline stuff and the constant scene switching, and not, I'm not talking page to page. I'm talking you'll have one page and you'll have like 3 panels in a row that are all different timelines and stuff. I think maybe he's executing it well, but I don't want anyone to execute this in any way in any comic ever. Like, I don't think it to be totally honest, this kind of made my head hurt. And I don't think it's because I'm stupid. I don't really think this is a super, great way to pace any, really any story.
I
Especially in
think
comics.
that's a fair criticism. I think that works. I had the same deal. Like I read it twice. Because it like took me a few panels. Like even when the preview images came out, when we saw Alfred, because I think the preview images end where Alfred first shows up, and you're like, wait, what's going on here? Alfred's dead. Why is he standing there? So like it does take some getting used to, because it's like layered on top of each other, intersected. The pages look cool, but yeah, definitely the flow of it. I don't know. I think it's the first time that, because we read digitally, that not having the actual like physical copy, I'm wondering how it would look differently with 2 pages side by side than say just the single page view of a digital reader.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps, but it's not like I don't know. That's kind of that's a way broader, idea of how we literally read comics with our eyes. But yeah, I mean, on the story itself, like I can nitpick. I mean, I'm nitpicking. Well, I'm not nitpicking actually. I'm criticizing the execution of the beat to beat storytelling. But other than that, I don't really have much negative to say, except for a couple Tom King nitpicks, like, when huge chunks of the book are like, he's basically using song lyrics as narration, like someone's, singing a song to themselves and stuff like that. It's like okay, it's kind of annoying to me. That's just like my weird pet peeve. But at least it's not fucking poetry like he did in some of his other stuff so far.
Yeah.
But I mean, overall, like I like the annual. I like the future, timeline idea that King has put forward. I don't fully understand, the whole chronology of the Joker, which is perhaps introduced here for the first time. But I like the idea. He kind of is going for, especially with Bruce dead, he's basically going for like a Joker going sane kind of idea.
Yeah.
Where, the Joker's chilling out, civilian mode. Also, in addition to the Catwoman retcon, which doesn't matter because it's not canon. Also, I don't think we saw in previous peaks in this future timeline, there's a quick throwaway line that Helena Wayne in this timeline is gay. I don't think we knew that.
We didn't know that, but like whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. This is an alternate timeline of an alternate timeline.
Yeah, I just hope we see Helena in the series show up.
Yeah, I mean,
for like one panel or so, like one in costume, then one out of costume.
With the structure of this first issue in particular, I have no fucking clue where this series is going.
Yeah, same. I have no clue.
And on that note, I think I'm with Dan, and I obviously with you. I think I am going to keep reading this, but I don't know if I'm going to like it overall. But the tragic thing is, I don't not like it based on the story or anything.
Oh, I thought you were not going to like it based on the story.
No, I really just don't like this based on the way the story is arranged. Yeah. I really wish, I honestly think if you just, cut up this book and put it in, at least closer to something else where it's like this full page is this timeline, and then here's a caption where we're transitioning.
Yeah.
I think, and it's subjective, but everything's subjective, but I think I would enjoy it a lot more that way.
No, that's a fair criticism. It's certainly a different style to the way it's done. Dan, how did you feel about the transitioning timelines kind of rapidly? Like, was it hard to adjust at first for you? Like it was for me, and it definitely was for Vince.
Yeah, I mean, like Vince said, it's one thing to like change from page to page and use like narration to help make the transition easier, but yeah, there's times where it's like, okay, we're literally jumping around within one page, and it's like there's no context. There's no like. There's nothing. There's a few times where there was nothing to tell you that you were jumping around. So I'm just like at first I'm like, is this like an older like woman or like that's also has the name of like I don't know. That was awful to assume, but it's like there's no real good
within a
explanation as to
panel at
what's going
times.
on.
Like
Really.
when Alfred showed up, I'm fucking confused.
Yeah, like it's because Alfred shows up right as Bruce is like, oh, Alfred is passed.
It's the same panel.
Yeah, it's in the same panel, but then like he's there and it's they do the scene from Phantasm where in the movie he walks in on Bruce and Andrea, but in the comic it's Bruce and Selina in bed. So they do the same kind of thing. He brings the food and he's like, oh, they're doing their thing, let me leave. They do that, but like yeah, it was jarring at first. I tried to like think like, is there a color hint to let us know? Because most of the scenes set in the present are like at night with blue, but then that doesn't work because the first scene is Bruce talking to Andrea, and it's next to the fire, so there's like very reds and oranges, and then all of the stuff in the future is in that coastal town that Selina's at, and it's bright and sunny. So at least with that, I was like, all right, bright and sunny, old Selina, that's the key of, okay, future. But like from past to present, and now to be fair, past is like definitely the least timeline we've seen here from the first issue. Like there was no like trying to juggle hints here or anything. That was the most complicated version of it. But I mean, final thoughts on this? Like I liked it. I think we're all continuing with it, but we'll see how it goes. None of us know where the story's going.
Yeah, I'll just make one quick weird comparison that I've kind of been going back and forth on in my head. This kind of feels, and obviously King has been experimental with format, with storytelling, but this issue, it kind of feels like I'm reading a Christopher Priest comic in certain ways.
Yeah, I can see that.
That was like the weird comparison I was thinking of. All right, but we can move along.
I'd say as a final criticism, I'm not super stoked about more Joker, but that's just because of all the other content. In a fairness to King, he hasn't really used the Joker that much.
Yeah, and Clayman's kind of going for like the beach Joker killing joke kind of vibe, and he draws the Joker pretty well.
No, his Joker when he shows up in King's Run is like legitimately terrifying. So, all at that. Black Widow had a hell of an ending, Vince.
Well, I don't. Well, this issue had an ending. There's an issue to come, I believe. Actually, I think it's ongoing. But yeah, Kelly Thompson, Elena Casagrande, and a special appearance with artist Carlos Gomez in some sequences. So Nat isn't dead. That was kind of the tease at the end of the last issue. She gets her memories back and now has to escape with her husband and son. Yelena helps them. And the villains, after one of them sabotaged their whole plan, they're basically stuck here. So their new plan is to try and truly kill Nat. And then we get the backstory dump from Nat where she explains to her quote unquote husband, hey, let me tell you who I am and what happened here. So 14 weeks ago, she was tranked and he was also kidnapped subject. So we don't really get any backstory on him. I don't think it matters. He doesn't really have any backstory unless they want to pull a huge twist on that level later on. They both have these implanted memories of this long life together and history and education and jobs and everything like that. And Stevie is a test tube baby. And I feel like I was like, it doesn't matter, but like I wanted just one or two more sentences of explanation about Stevie because it's implied like they've been together for at least a little bit, like a month and stuff. So Stevie, they've seen him age and grow and stuff like that. I don't know. I wanted a little bit more explanation there. But I guess he was test tube and then like basically out of the test tube, he's like pretty far in his development. So they must have sped up his growth if this was only 14 weeks ago. And then I guess now he's on a normal track. So they end up in a safe house and Hawkeye and Winter Soldier loop in. And then we get essentially kind of the train hitting the story, sort of. This is me kind of exaggerating things. Retcon isn't the right word, but here's how, Kelly Thompson basically creates the hole to get out of this, the premise for this series, how to untie the knot that she's created. where Natalia basically says, "Hey, you have to take this baby and never see me again. You can't even think of me. You can't, you know, I never existed in your life, even though we have, technically this biological child between us, which we did spend serious time together and with the child." So suddenly this book is being written by Joe Quesada, or at least that's my, hissy fit version of it. And like, whatever. I mean, she's a super spy. She deals with Hydra and stuff like that. She's not Spider-Man necessarily, but Spider-Man's dealing with Carnage, which is kind of, sort of relevant to a book later. But like, just figure it out, Black Widow. Like, you can have a husband and this baby, and you can still be a superhero. Just Kelly Thompson, just figure it out. Not that big of a deal. Superman does it, and that's referenced in Black Lightning does it, and those are referenced in a book we'll get to later. But that point may be moot because at the end of this issue, there's some kind of explosion, and it seems that maybe James and Stevie have just been killed. I would be surprised if they have actually just been killed at the end of this issue, though that would be a very easy way to clean the slate. Though that would, obviously, that's kind of some fridging. I mean, not fridging in the traditional sense, but yeah, I mean, that's where we end here. Carlos Gomez, I think he's a nice contrast to the flashback scenes, or at least half of them. I think he's really good in the ones that are superhero related. He doesn't shine as much in the domestic scenes between Nat, Stevie, and James, but he's still good there. But he's kind of getting typecast hard. I think it's funny that they pulled him in to guest some pages on this book because kind of his breakout. I don't know what he did before this. He's obviously a foreign artist. I think he's from Spain. But his breakout mainstream book was Red Sonja, and then he did Amazing Mary Jane, and now he's doing pages in Black Widow. And obviously he doesn't color his own work. So his three biggest projects to date, I think he had some weird other Marvel thing in between or something, but it's all redhead chicks, which I think is just coincidentally funny. And then I just want to point out that there's a splash page of Black Widow kind of considering all the villains and people who could be involved in this plot. And there's some oddball choices on that page, like Elektra's on there. Like, is Elektra going to try and that's actually, also kind of sort of relevant to a book later, especially when they get to talking about that book. Is Elektra going to kidnap Black Widow, implant memories, create a baby for her to get her off the board? And then Ultron's on that page. Like, is Ultron pulling this plot on Black Widow? Kind of funny, but this book is, pretty good. I'm kind of wary about how the developments move forward with James and Stevie, but I'm also not like a super humongous Black Widow fan with 700 issues of development into the character. So I'm not going to freak out, if James and Stevie disappear from this book. But it's kind of a lazy writing in a sense, to be honest.
I agree, but also with Black Widow, I can buy that, she's a super spy. People do know who she is, and there always someone is tracking her. So she was doing it for more the protection of, her husband and the kid. But it also to talk about your one criticism, it seemed that they were at least, given implanted memories or something. So that's what that seemed like. But the Elena Casagrande art, man, still good. Those fight sequences are really, really good. And then, that was that was a huge shocking ending to me for okay, they're going to get off the board. No, then they just get mortared to death. At least, it seems that way. It's hard to, buy that as a death because it is so shocking. But, with the looks on everyone else's faces in the room, holy shit, is the kind of the, it helps me buy that maybe they are dead. That's a huge, deal to happen in only issue 4. But, I enjoyed the book. Daniel?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a good escalation of what we've already seen, and a little bit weird to hear that this whole thing was just a test tube and brainwashing. Kind of is, I don't know. I guess it was only 4 issues for that mystery to last until we kind of found out what it all was about, and now it's just okay, now we can get on with the actual Black Widow story, whatever that entails going forward. But I don't know. it's kind of a letdown. There wasn't more to that type of that backstory there, but I guess it is what it is. I guess they wanted to get to a point where they can start actually using her as a character and write off all the extra characters that we have in the book.
Well, it definitely gives some motivation for it. It's I don't think, but like I said, I don't think they're gone forever. I think there's something else going on here.
Maybe they have powers.
No, maybe we don't know yet. Could happen.
Yeah.
But I think this is one of the books, by the way, that's like off the slate in like February for solicitation. So I don't know what's happening with this book. This might be like, one of those ongoing that's only like one trade long. Who knows? Or they like relaunch it after. We'll see. But I mean, I hope it doesn't end. I am enjoying this. But more Marvel snapshots, Dan.
Yeah, so our next issue is Civil War Marvel Snapshots #1, written by Saladin Ahmed with art by Ryan Kelly. So in Toledo, Ohio, a couple of Samus-looking shield people show up to arrest a hero by the name of the Helper. So they track down the kid when we were introduced to Clyde Dobronsky, who is one of these shield agents who caught the Helper. So this kid, he's being transported back to the holding cell. We then get some flashbacks of Clyde's life as he was growing up, as well as when he watched Nitro on TV with his son, which, as all of us here know, that was the event that triggered the Civil War in the comics at Stamford, Connecticut. And Clyde then signed up for his special ops unit in S.H.I.E.L.D. Under the Superhumans Rights or Registration Act, excuse me. And his first task was actually to take down Cap, which was a hero that he admired. So he kind of had some hesitation there, and he was demoted back to Toledo, Ohio to kind of do the security detail there. So we then go back to the present when Clyde has a discussion with the Helper in prison, and then we get a flashback of the Helper's life. So we see this young boy growing up. I forget what his name is off the top of my head, but his powers allowed him to basically like fix things, take the metal out of like water, like treat the water pretty much for his nearby people, fix like a pothole. So, it kind of brings some human aspects to the whole Civil War, conflict, and kind of shows that not all heroes are evil and stuff like that. But yeah, so the Helper then recounts a story with Cap that hits home with Clyde. So he actually was saving like this one chemical place, and Cap shows up and helps him. And that really stuck with the Helper because he's like, Cap's willing to go out of his way to help me, even though he's a wanted fugitive by the government. So I thought that was pretty cool. Another S.H.I.E.L.D. agent comes by and drops off a teenage girl, and Clyde kind of like comes to and realizes that like what he's doing for S.H.I.E.L.D. is not right. And so he breaks both the kids out of prison, and he calls his son, who's actually with his mother, who they're divorced. So he's calling his son as the sun is rising and the two kids are escaping. So, and he's pretty sure that he's going to lose his job or be sent to jail, but he thought it was worth it. I think this is definitely one of the better snapshot issues. I would say it's probably one of my favorite, actually, of the bunch. I think there's some that maybe might edge it out, but this is definitely not bad at all. The story is kind of cool. Definitely kind of brings some realism to the whole thing. Aside from just the actual superheroes, we see kind of how S.H.I.E.L.D. agents and how the actual heroes who get captured, kind of what they go through. So I like this. I thought this was good. And the art by Ryan Kelly I thought was pretty on point too. So what do you guys think?
I really enjoyed this.
It was really.
Yeah,
it was fine.
Yeah, I thought this was great, but there's kind of an asterisk to it. I thought this was a really fascinating story. It's a great way to look at Civil War and everything like that, with the caveat that it just really underlines how just massively stupid of a story Civil War was. Both the story itself, but also that they would even do it in the first place. I mean, because the problem is I mean, this kind of story was the inevitability of doing Civil War, because the minute you do Civil War, you take any ounce of realism, you think about it seriously. What does happen when there is like a 12-year-old, with superpowers who's just literally just trying to do very minor good stuff. And during the story, during Civil War, you kind of had an angle on that. I mean, that's kind of the position the Young Avengers were in. But like this in particular, you tell a story like this, it just shows how, I don't know, this just made me hate Civil War so much more. But the actual story here, once you accept Civil War was a thing, I can't delete it from, history. This was a really great look and kind of a middle finger to Civil War in a way, or you can interpret it that way in a meta sense.
Yeah, my thing with it was like it was fun. Like I've seen this story before. There was nothing different here other than like it shed light on a story that none of us really like. Like, but I thought the art was just like okay. This is like I guess the third like issue in a row that I'm like these were fine. Like that I haven't loved them since the Cyclops issue. So that's where we're at with that. But yeah, I mean it is what it is. I don't know what the next one is. I think this was an addition. I don't think this was originally in the bunch, but that all it does is make me think of like the one Marvel house ad when Civil War was going on, where it was just like the little girl flying in the sky getting reprimanded by these shield agents, going like, "Are you registered?" And she was like 10. So it's like you're gonna make a 10-year-old register because it has superpowers. Yeah, it's like you said, it brings up all those questions of logic back and realize why that story doesn't really work. But with that, I'll talk about a book that's just big, dumb, stupid fun, but damn, is it fun and enjoyable. And DCeased Dead Planet #6. And this is Tom Taylor, who I believe celebrated a birthday this week, so happy birthday, Tom Taylor, and then Trevor Hairsine. Which, not much to say at this point. This is the second to last issue. And I'll say, hey, the heroes have found a cure for and synthesized it. For the anti-life virus. The bad is the Penguin and Professor Ivo have unleashed their army of Amazos to destroy all of the anti-life on Earth. That people, that the heroes are trying to save. So now it's kind of like a race against time to cure as many people as possible, so the Amazos don't target them. So they get Wallace West, who's like the last Flash that's left alive, to start racing around the world and try to, spread the cure around as fast as possible. And then also, Trigon's coming, as we've seen that being built up, and then John Constantine has to put kind of his shadow pact plan into full effect as Zatanna discovers it. So, with the help of Phantom Stranger and Etrigan, they take the helmet of Dr. Fate as kind of like their last weapon that Constantine needs. So he's got the Cloak of Ragman, the Staff of the Wizard Shazam, and the Crystal Ball of Madame Xanadu and the Spear of Destiny. So he's like souped himself up with all the super magical items in the DCU, and now he's going to go head in a suicide mission to go try to stop Trigon from invading the Earth and taking it over. Really great plotting here by Taylor, who's having everything build up in impact and kind of, culminate here in the penultimate issue, which I think, I don't know if we're going to get near the end of the year. We'll talk about favorite books of the year, but I think this is very entertaining and easily one of my favorite books, if not my favorite book in DC in 2020. So I'm very excited to see how he ties it all together with the ending, and then we'll see what's next for Tom Taylor at DC. But Daniel, let's talk about Daredevil. We missed issue 24 last week, but it ended with Matt Murdock going to jail. So he's in jail now. And Marco Cicchetto returns in issue 25. So, well, we'll see what's next for Matt Murdock here.
Yes, Matt also did not pass go. He did not collect $200. He went right to jail. So I guess someone's going to try to bail him out. But our next issue here is Daredevil number 25, written by Chip Zdarsky, art by Marco Cicchetto, colors by Marcio Menez. Our issue opens to a flashback in a snowy cabin with Matt and Elektra chilling. That's the PG version of what I am describing. And then go to a montage of Elektra killing hand members, because what else is she supposed to do in a Daredevil comic? Am I right? Elektra breaks into the prison to talk to Matt, and she gets catcalled the whole time as she goes to his cell. So we get her in her traditional costume, so that probably explains some of that, I guess. But anyways, she gets to his cell and kind of talks to him about this whole plan about the hand and how the book that she found with Stick, and how this book requires a king and queen to take down the hand, and Elektra basically wants Matt to be her king. So it's pretty forward of her. But anyways, he's like, nah, I don't want to do that. I'm just gonna go lock myself back up in this prison, but good luck. So she ends up going out there. She leaves the prison, almost kills a guy as she's leaving, because the guy like cat calls her again, and then she pulls out her sai on him and basically like almost kills him. She gives a necklace to a bum so that she can, I guess, sell it for money, and then basically just becomes Daredevil. So we get a one-page splash of her costume as Daredevil, and as Mike wrote here, definitely we both agree it's a very awesome looking costume. If you get a chance to look it up, definitely do so. It's a really cool art style or art decision there, I guess, design decisions. So really excited to see how long this period of Daredevil lasts. I'm not sure if it's just going to be this like one-time thing or whatever, but she stops a robbery, as we also get some more backstory on the book and the requirement for a king and queen, as we see Daredevil or Matt walking away in the prison back to his cell, I guess, or wherever he's going in the cell. So this series, as we've talked about ad nauseum now, is amazing and continues to keep me interested and coming back for more. I would say this is possibly a very contentious contender for pick of the week. This has been a great series, and if this doesn't get an omnibus, I don't know what will, because this is up there with the other great Daredevil runs of recent memory. So yeah, that's my synopsis of DD number 25.
Yeah, first of all, like, the woman was homeless because her husband died. So I don't know what you're talking about there.
Oh, sorry, I guess he's not bummed then.
No, what is wrong with you?
I'm sorry.
You apologize to the homeless lady that Elektra just saved.
I apologize to a fictional character.
There you go. No, I like the Elektra. The whole decision is like because she ended up, the whole reason why Matt went to prison is because he saw that Hell's Kitchen would be saved when, he thought Tony Stark could get Hell's Kitchen bought, but it ends up he lost the bet, and it was like some other buyer. And then in the courtroom, Elektra was like whispering, and Matt heard it. So it was Elektra who bought Hell's Kitchen with the money that she stole back earlier in the run. So this is all part of her plan to get like Matt on her side. So she's like, all right, I'll show you how you can trust me. I'll become Daredevil while you're in prison. Also, Dan, I thought it was pretty funny that I guess Riker's also, because he has to stay in the mask because he went to jail as Daredevil. They gave him an orange mask to put on his orange prison jumper, which I thought was hilarious.
Oh, I just thought it was just the coloring, but yeah, that's actually kind of funny now I think about it.
Yeah, I don't know if it was supposed to be red, but they were too similar to the point where it just seemed like it was an orange mask he got for being in prison. So yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes, but also at the same time, it's like, oh, he's gonna lead the hand again. So we've seen what Zdarsky's doing, so it's like, oh, you did the Bendis thing where he's going to jail. The end of Brubaker, he leads the hand. So is he just like playing the greatest hits, but like spinning it in a different way? I don't really know, because also we have Typhoid Mary here too, that's involved with Fisk. She wasn't in this issue; she was in issue 24 though. But yeah, I mean, I'm not, undeniably this is great. Chiquetto has been fantastic, but I do want to know, like, what exactly else is going to happen here, because is Zdarsky just spinning the web again, but doing it differently? I think there's definitely tones of that, but no, I'm highly enjoying it. And like, yeah, for example, like if, as far as pick of the week's concerned, this could arguably be like the 1B to the 1A pick. At least I feel this week. And this is the big speculator boom because of the new Elektra costume, and oh, she's the new Daredevil. So that's the clickbait headline of the video. Who's the new Daredevil? Oh, it's Elektra. But
Go get
yeah, so and then we'll stay with you for Chris Cantwell's Fantastic Four road trip. We liked the beginning of Doctor Doom. We like his Iron Man. Dan, do you like Fantastic Four?
I actually kind of liked this issue. It was slow at times, but overall I thought it was a good story. But anyways, I'll get into it. So our next issue is Fantastic Four Road Trip #1, written by Chris Cantwell with art by Felipe Andrade. Andrade, I don't know how you say that. Sorry about that. So on the second page, we are already rolling the credits as we see the Fantastic Four driving in a station wagon to the Grand Canyon. When I think Reed mentions road trip. So roll credits, we already are there. So anyways, they're going to the Grand Canyon and they want to stop. Not they. Reed wants to stop at a crater to gather some dirt samples, aided by Franklin's powers, who we kind of get some backstory on how he didn't really like doing that later on once they get to the cabin. But anyways, the group gets to the cabin. They go to sleep. Then Reed stays up till like 2:38 in the morning, I think, to do studying. Which, I mean, for somebody who is on vacation, like, why the hell would you stay up that late? But anyways, I guess that's Reed for you. So, anyways, the next day, Ben and Alicia stop by the Grand Canyon. Valeria and Sue go out and like kayaking and stuff like that. And during this like whole thing, I think also Reed and Franklin kind of stay at the house and just chill and do their separate things. So during like this time out, like the things like rocks start to fall off his body. Reed or I'm sorry, Sue starts to like lose her flesh and like her body starts to basically disappear, and like Valeria starts to like turn back into like a baby. At one point, even pooping herself. So Sue's like, "What the heck's going on here?" So Reed discovers that the soil he collected is actually from a planet called Spire, and that the group has been set up and poisoned. So basically, this is like making all of their like powers go nuts. And Reed is also like melting. So like instead of stretching, he's basically melting apart, which is kind of interesting to see. I mean, the art here by Felipe is actually really cool. There's a lot of like cool moments with like the art where they're just like all going nuts and like their like cabins going crazy too. It's like turn all different types of ways. So much crazy shit happens, and the group tries to leave the area. The group then like combines themselves together for some reason, and I guess that does the trick because they emerge from like this fire cloud. That's the mad thinker who was the person who planted all this in the first place by poisoning the soil in the crater. He gets kind of like blown up and taken out really quickly, like within like the last page or two of the issue. But I kind of liked it. I thought, like I said, the pacing was kind of good. There was some times where I felt like it was a little bit slow, and the art was very unique, very interesting for this type of book. Nothing like seeing Reed with a 5 o'clock shadow. I thought that was kind of funny, and the ending is hilarious too. They're on their way to some other place, and he's like, "Oh, can we stop and get test samples of this dirt soil?" And everyone's like, "No," and he's like, "What? I need it for science." And it was like, "No, we're not doing that." So I thought this was a cute little story. Yeah, what'd you guys think?
I'll add Vince here back. No, this is a real fun one shot. The Felipe Andrade art was terrific, and then I think this is a 3 for 3 for us for Cantwell. We like Doctor Doom, even though we fell off of it. We really like Iron Man, and then we like this. So at least, well, me and you like this. Vince will give his thoughts in a second, but I think you liked it as well. But no, this was really fun. As far as like a throwaway, one shot, this was really really good.
Yeah, I really love this on the body horror angle, and also I think Cantwell gets all the characters' voices pretty well. On the nerd level, I think this takes place sometime after 18, but before 21 in the main series, because the Empire kids aren't here with Thing and Alicia, and Franklin still has. More importantly, Franklin still has his powers. Um, there's a cross section page that shows everyone doing their own thing in the house, and that's just like a perfect page. Like I might have to check the dimensions on that and stuff, and see if I can work it as a phone background or something. See what that looks like. But overall, I thought this was perfect. I mean, I think this is well, I'll reveal later, but I think this is definitely a contender, one of the best books of the week.
Yeah, I would agree. It was up there for me. It was a welcome surprise, too. I mean, I thought it was going to be good, liking Cantwell's stuff. And then Dan, I'll ask you: are you excited for the Doctor Doom and Iron Man team up to save Christmas for the upcoming King in Black one shot for Christmas time?
Hells yeah!
I'm excited for that.
I love team ups with Doom and Iron Man.
So no, this is really, really good. And yeah, Vince's that cross section page was just simply gorgeous. But we'll stay with him as hey, Firepower came out this week too.
Yes, Firepower number 6 by Robert Kirkman, Chris Samney, Matt Wilson. So the old dude who showed up at the end of the last issue, he is here, jumped through the window. He gets in a huge misunderstanding fight with Owen, our main character, and then basically drops an info dump on him. A lot of this is relating back to the prelude that both Dan and I didn't read, but it's about the differing clans and allegiances, and there's a literal dragon involved, and then the bad guys crash the party, and they seem to kill the old man, but just like in Black Widow, highly, highly doubt that, or maybe he's dead and there's some ninja thing that gets him back alive. Our main family is on the run again, and I think at the end here they run into. Are they running into Owen's dad? I think, or is it the wife's father? I think it's Owen.
I think it's Owen's father-in-law. I think that's Kelly's father. At least that's what I seen because he had blonde hair like Kelly does.
But I think, but Owen works with him, right? I think that's his day job or something.
Owen, I think, works with his. No, Owen works at like a furniture restoration store, and I think his dad is just. I think his dad's retired.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I actually don't really feel that I have a ton to say here in terms of action and excitement. What I'm about to say isn't super accurate. I mean, this issue is very exciting, and it's fun, and the art by Samney, especially in the action, is amazing, as we say every issue. But in terms of chronology, I feel like the series has actually slowed down in a literal sense the past few issues. I think the first 2 or 3 issues, you actually kind of felt like each issue was, it could serve as its own story. At least that's what I remember. I'm pretty sure that's how one of the compliments I made towards the series. But these past 2 or 3 issues, that's not the case. Like this issue kind of doesn't work on its own. Like if you didn't read 1 through 5, I mean, obviously, for any comics, you wouldn't expect to understand all the characters and relationships and everything like that, reading an issue out of context. But there's not really a complete story here in this issue, which, granted, makes it on the same level as 95% of mainstream comics, and it's not even a bad thing. But I just think it's interesting to point that out, and I don't really have much else to say. It's still, a fantastic series.
Yeah, this is, by the way, this concludes what would be the second trade because the OGN is labeled Volume 1, I believe, or it's either Volume 1 or Volume 0. So essentially, this is the end of Volume 2, any way you look at it. And yeah, the last 2-3 issues, it's been a lot of action and not a lot advancing. And I'm kind of now flirting. I talked about this the way I've read Robert Kirkman. I think this might be the get off point where like, okay, I'm roped in. I'll go back to it when it's done and they throw those compendiums out or hardcovers or whatever way they're going to collect this, and maybe I'll jump in again that way, just because I want more now. And it's a very selfish reason, but it's also because like we do very much love this series. If we were to put together a top 5 new books for this year, this I feel would definitely be in our top 3, easily top 5. But at the same time, it is definitely stalled, and I don't know how fast it's going to advance again. I don't think the Master's quite dead yet. He's too good of a character to get rid of him this fast, and I think Kirkman says that in the little conversations that he has between Samney and the back of the book. But yeah, I'm flirting with this being my exit point for now. Maybe you'll come back and recap it later on down. when more things start to pick up and more action gets. More action would be crazy enough that's already packed full. But like when more plot advances, maybe I'll check in. I don't know yet, but this is definitely the part where I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, I think for me, it just feels like I don't know if it's just me thinking like this, but like I have a hard time trying to like envision like what type of plot this goes with after this whole like plot line story arc is done. Like it seems to me like this is I don't know, it just feels like it's not really built for like a long run, but I could be wrong. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like it's kind of like, I just feel like this story might be over in the next 6 issues, but then it's like where do you kind of go from there with the characters? I don't know. But yeah, like you said, I think this is like the perfect point where I'm just like, okay, I know a little bit about the book now. I can jump off and like still be surprised on what happens later on because I basically haven't read like the third act of this arc, whatever that is. So
Yeah, like I said, it's fully for selfish reasons because I'm just accustomed to reading Kirkman's work all in those big chunks. That's how I've come with it. So it's not because we don't like it. If we decide to get off it, I think everyone should know that it's because we like it. But I'm not entirely sure yet. But if we have nothing else to say, I'll get into Thor, which is the first of 2 Donny Cates books on the show this week. We know the next one. But this is Donny Cates, Nick Klein, Matt Wilson. Hey, it's that Thor team that I really, really like. Donald Blake's kind of just like running loose and rampant all over Asgard as he's crazy. And the history is kind of rewritten here as he realizes he was never really a real doctor or person, but merely a creation by Odin as an outlet for him to learn, at least him being Thor, to learn humanity. And he was just kind of a vessel for that. So he's kind of exacting revenge on that for never truly being real. And he takes Jornborn and starts basically just laying house to all the Asgardian warriors here. He takes out Beta Ray Bill and like sucks up his power, like rendering him just like to his normal state, and then proceeds to beat down the Warriors 3 and Sif, and then he makes his way to Earth, where he gives himself a cut and a shave, and he meets Jane Foster as Thor is still stuck in like Donald Blake's realm, and he's gonna have to fight the serpent inside the World Tree. Some more fun stuff here. I'm excited to see where we're gonna go with Donald Blake, and what's he gonna do with Jane Foster? Because I don't think Donald Blake would know that Jane's been Thor before and is Valkyrie right now. So I'm interested to see how that's gonna shake out. But once again, Nick Klein, Matt Wilson's art, perfect pairing. Donny Cates, I trust what he's doing at this point, as I'm a huge Donny Cates fan now. So not taking up much more time. I'm liking this. Let's talk about the end of the first arc of that Texas Blood.
yes, so our next issue is that Texas Blood number 6, written by Chris Condon with art by Jacob Phillips. Our issue opens to Randy sitting by himself when Sarah walks in and tries to talk him out of what he's about to do. We kind of get some allusion to what that is with him looking at a revolver. Meanwhile, the old cop, I forget what his name is, I apologize. He talks to Sarah in a diner, so he kind of pulls her in there, and he's talking to her. And then we quickly pan back to Randy, who has gone to the Lost Soul bar and starts shooting up the place and kills, I think, like 3 people. And he just goes out to the outside of the bar and just sits down and I guess just waits to be arrested. So, and I believe he's killed the person he believes has killed his brother. So he's arrested. He's taken to the station where he's actually informed that Sarah, of all people, is the one who actually killed his brother. And he's a hard time believing this until the cop tells him, like, look, she basically confessed. So that's the end of that. Somewhere else, I believe that's Randy's girlfriend. She's like looking through some stuff and she's just trying to process about everything that's happening with Randy and what's going on with him. And this guy that was back at the bar that like stole some money, he takes this money to somebody else, like this, I forget what his name is, but he takes him to this guy and this guy shoots him and basically takes his money. He's like, call in the dry cleaner and get all this blood cleaned off the rug, please. And I'm like, wow, if you were to, why wouldn't you just like shoot him somewhere else? Anyways, whatever. So at the very end of this whole thing, the Sarah and Randy get transferred to county, and the cop has this little cat jump into his car, and he's like, well, it looks like Martha's gonna like have to deal with bringing a new cat home. So, yay for the cop caring about cats' rights. I approve. So that's the end of the story, and the issue ends with a nice splash page at the end of kind of like some Texas cliffs, and I don't know if that's like the actual thing or whatever, but we also kind of see some pretty cool art and colors going on there by Jacob Phillips. So yeah, kind of a tragic and sad end to this storyline, but throughout it all, we've kind of had this character, this cop. I forget what his name is. Mike's gonna tell you about it in the comment or shortly here, but yeah, kind of cool to see that cop has been throughout this whole process and has kind of been that person that we've been with along this whole journey. So curious to see what the next story arc holds for us for this issue or this series, and I like it. I like it a lot. So, what do you guys think?
Yeah, it was good. I do have to say, I think you glossed over some bits. Like, he killed the Terrells because, yeah, he thought they killed his brother, but also, like, this is a slow descent into madness for Randy, who that was our main character.
Yeah.
Sheriff Joe Bob was just kind of our vessel into Ambrose County, Texas, where this is all set.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get into Joe Bob in a second, is like, I like Joe Bob. He's a fun character, especially the way that he's played here. And then what Condon has played for him next. This was, like I said before, this was his script, film script that got turned into a comic book. I think the ending, it felt like the ending is a little rushed between issues 5 and 6. Upon a reread, I'll reevaluate that when I eventually have the trade in front of me. But this was good. I think the ending just slightly convoluted a little bit, but not a lot. With it was the waitress that did it. I thought that was good, but yeah, the whole stealing the money thing, that was super rushed. But also, like, if I was watching it on a movie screen, I could be fine with it. Like, it just felt weird laid out in a comic book, kind of just like inserted in there. But this does conclude the end of the first trade. I do want to know if we're ever going to get back to the cliffhanger of, they mentioned the third body, that Randy didn't kill that one. Which was way back at the beginning of the book. In that first issue, they strapped that to him too, but he didn't do that. So as he's left questioning that as he's getting carried off. The black cat that we see Joe Bob get, I don't know if that can't not be an ominous thing of, that's just Ambrose County, Texas with bad luck, maybe, to infer that. I think it's the easy thing you can infer here, but hey, this is the end of the proper first arc, and it sold well with high success. Like, the first 4 issues went all to second printings. I think the first issue went to a third or fourth one. But Condon has said he has plans to stay with Ambrose County, Texas, and next arc we're going to 1981 with Joe Bob just being a deputy, and maybe he's taking a more kind of key notice here. So he's going for that anthology approach, which I think is the smart way to go, especially when he formally wrote that in the back matter material that he has like 30 issues planned. If we get 30 issues, who knows? But like, I'm kind of down for like Joe Bob's our vessel into Ambrose County, and we can get stories with the, we've kind of we have a base of characters, but you can add to it in different ways, kind of like Criminal, where we have the family of characters there. But no, I like this. Jacob's art was good. His coloring, I think, is better than his artwork. That his pencil work, but that's not an issue. His pencil work's still very good. But yeah, I'm excited to see what comes. I hope Jacob stays on the book. Who knows if he's gonna, stay in for the long haul, just like Chris does. I feel like eventually there might be an art change here, but no, for right now, it was a very good first 6 issues and debut for Chris Condon and Jacob Phillips.
I forgot to read this issue somehow, so we can move along.
Oh, wow. Look at you. Maybe you don't read your books all at Friday night at 6 p.m. But well, me and Dan will talk about a book that's Dan, I'll just leave you here for it, because I begin my rundown with Strange Adventures number 7, Tom King, Mitch Gerrits, and Evan Doc Sheener. I have a question for you, Dan. Do you understand what's happening in this issue?
Not really, but I know who the characters are.
Okay, well that's good. So Adam was captured by an Anranian who was attacked by the Picts, and it's seemingly that he's tortured into madness. basically think like the allegory here is he's waterboarded, but instead of being waterboarded, he keeps getting teleported all around, and it kind of like breaks his brain as he's starting to see things. And he admits to Alana that he did indeed kill the man outside the bookstore that was accusing him of war crimes, as he thought he was a pick, and that since the invasion started, hey, I must be right. And it's kind of like set him down this downward spiral panic. And then like she keeps pressing him if there's anything to say about their daughter, and he doesn't, which at least gives like hope to her. But you still can't help Dan but feel like he's definitely hiding something still. Like there's gonna be a reveal there, but we're now hitting that point where here's the second twist where Tom King's gonna spin it around again, and then we'll finally get it around issue 11, issue 12 when this all ends. But this is the issue ends with Adam breaking free from the torture in the past and killing his captor very violently, which is moments we've seen before in this series. I guess my only question is, was this happening the whole time, or is that still set in the past, revolving on how Adam got back to Earth and won the war? That remains to be seen. Once again, another good issue, and the art's great, but more questions as the mystery continues, right?
Yeah, I mean, this issue kind of spins this whole series on its axis, and yeah, definitely kind of leaves some stuff to be desired as to like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would say this definitely made it more interesting for me. Up until this point, I'm surprised I made it this far through this series.
I am too. I'm also surprised.
I feel like I should have dropped off like 4 issues ago, but I guess this is definitely something I'm probably gonna reread and trade at some point as well, because I just think
I'm gonna have to too. Yeah, it's
I mean,
I'm sure Vince is thrilled that Adam Strange is now a murderer of a possible innocent man. But and by satisfied and happy, I mean horribly angry and upset. But hey, Black Label. But like I think they did at least a good job of like trying to convince you that Adam's a good guy, and then he's kind of had this breakdown where we've seen kind of slowly build up that he's not like the goody guy that we thought he was.
Complex.
Yeah, he's much more of a complex, more like deep-seated violent character as they're painting like, hey, war is ugly and there's no true good in it, which is the other part of this. But we'll still go with it. I think on my Tom King spectrum, like I'm not as high on this as other books though. Like I think this might be my least favorite. Well, no, Heroes in Crisis is my least favorite, so this can't be my least favorite. But yeah, I'm not as super hot on this as I was, Batman or Vision, for example. This is still very good though, but it's the one that's where the mystery is the more slow build up, because I kind of was starting to put pieces together. That's kind of the point here. But I think Justice League Endless Winter was kind of a fun, feels old throwbacky, right, Vince? To like old kind of events?
Yeah, that's kind of my impression. So this is written by Andy Lanning and Ron Mars, which is kind of a weird combo. I mean, it's not a weird combo, but I'm not sure the last time I saw Andy Lanning writing a mainstream comic book following, back in the day. I mean, literally from like the early 90s, up through, I don't know how long ago, he would often collaborate with Dan Abnett. They would co-write things. Obviously, there's the whole Abnett and Lanning cosmic saga at Marvel. There's their Legion of Superheroes, Resurrection Man, a bunch of Death's Head and early Marvel UK stuff, on and on. So it's interesting to see him pair with Ron Mars. Art by Howard Porter. So I'm kind of trying out the first issue of this big time-filling crossover, which takes place before the next thing, Future State, which is either even more time-filling, or as we go on and on, it's looking like it's potentially the prelude to the most drastic changes to DC, maybe, since 2011, who knows. So this story has kind of a Convergence-esque feel in a meta sense in terms of publishing strategy. But actually the format of this event, since you have, I believe, one shot on either side, and then random issues from ongoing series like Aquaman, like Flash, etc., it actually reminds me more of the certain 90s crossovers, though these use annuals, but I'm talking about Armageddon 2001, Eclipse of Darkness Within, and Bloodlines. In the beginning here, in the actual story, we have a bunch of C-lister villains: Catman, Icicle, Rampage, and Multiplex. Which I feel like Catman's a little, Catman and Icicle, they're a little bit on a higher tier than these other two. But they take over a small island. They think they can just, do this huge thing, but at a really small place, and they'll get away with it and just be able to chill out. But the Justice League show up to stop them. And meanwhile, Sebastian Stagg, who I think was very recently created, I think he was created in Terrifics. Unless I'm just like really stumping it, I don't think he was a character before, but he's related tangentially to Metamorpho, but I don't know the status of Metamorpho. Never mind, I'm getting confused. I don't know. Did Metamorpho die in Doomsday Clock? I know Firestorm did, but I don't really know.
No, Metamorpho was around in Terrifics.
I know, but Terrifics has been canceled for like half a year or something. But whatever.
No, recently, and also, who the hell knows what Doomsday Clock is anymore?
Yeah, but Sebastian Stagg is up to some shit, harvesting crystals from the abandoned Fortress of Solitude, which has to do with Bendis stuff. The fortress, I guess, moved. I don't know the specifics of that, but Barry, the kind of running like character thing is that Barry Allen is really concerned about work-life balance and figuring out how to, have a successful family alongside being a superhero. And so he's talking to Superman about it. He's trying to talk to all the other characters. Then he randomly stops in on Black Lightning. And this is low-key like the biggest part of this issue. So Black Lightning is shown here with his two daughters all of a sudden. And what's crazy is I think this is their first appearance in this continuity, because when the New 52 started, the JSA was retconned out. So one of Black Lightning's daughters originally appeared technically in Kingdom Come, but then in Jeff Johns' JSA run, he essentially pulled like some of those Kingdom Come characters. I mean, some more prominently or more obviously than others, but including bringing Black Lightning's daughters into the present and making them parts of things. And the other one was more of a outsider / Titans kind of franchise character. And when the New 52 happened with the JSA retcon or not around, they these two characters weren't around. And then when there was technically a Black Lightning series. It was a Black Lightning, I believe a Black Lightning and Blue Devil team up or something was one of the first arcs in DC Universe Presents or whatever, the weird anthology title during the New 52. But eventually when Black Lightning got his own solo series for the first time since like the late 90s, Tony Isabella, the creator who had written both of the prior quote-unquote ongoing series, the character got brought in to do a miniseries, but he decided to de-age the character and didn't reference his family at all, which, I mean, he's the creator of the character, so whatever, and DC let him do it, but the series wasn't very good. That's not at all what most Black Lightning fans were looking for. Most Black Lightning fans are into the idea of the family because Black Lightning has always been portrayed as kind of a very mature character, which is why Barry Allen in this story is going to see him. But it was kind of weird. So those characters weren't canon for nearly a decade. And, they happen to be two of DC's Black female characters. And one of them is LGBT. I forget which one, but they dated Grace. I think her name's Grace, back in The Outsiders. And also, the weirdest part of them not being canon in the comics is that Black Lightning has been on TV and is now going into its 4th season. So they're finally here, though they seem younger here than both pre-Flashpoint and than they are on TV, as far as I know. I haven't watched the show, though. But that might just be Howard Porter's weird drawings. I mean, I'll get to that in a second. But back to the actual story here, even though I think that's kind of the biggest deal in this issue. There's a character called the Frost King who's accidentally awoken up in the Arctic where the fortress was, and there's some connection to Krypton. And I don't 100% understand that aspect of it, but then suddenly all across the Earth, it's winter. It's a very serious winter, no matter what hemisphere you're in, what country, what time of day. It's snowing. It's 50 degrees below zero. And there's some connection to Black Adam because it turns out that this exact event or something similar happened in the 10th century, where we see a quick flashback of Black Adam teaming up with Hippolyta, that's Wonder Woman's mother, Viking Prince, a obscure Joe Kubert character from very early issues of Brave and the Bold, and an old iteration of Swamp Thing. So the art here by Howard Porter, I think it's rough in spots, which is basically, it's the same thing that we commented while we were briefly reading Flash. And on that note, the next issue of this story is in an issue of Flash, and I think I'm going to continue with it. I like the time element and pulling in these obscure characters with the proto superhero team up. The plot and dialogue comes across with like a classic kind of feel to it. And yeah, I thought this was kind of enjoyable. It's weird. I mean, I don't fully understand the publishing strategy and stuff. And also, I think low key, DC has like not remotely promoted this series because they've focused so much more on Future State, which is right on top of it. So if this is really good, I think it's unfortunately going to kind of be overshadowed, and unfortunately, maybe it'll be quickly forgotten. But I think it's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, this felt a lot like Justice League cartoon to me too, with how well the characters bounce their dialogue off of each other. We get a big fight, a big ancient villain for them to fight. We get a mix of good characters with the, our classic seven, especially since the League is definitely more representative of the Justice League show with the characters involved, with slight changes here and there. And I think Ron Mars did some writing for some of those shows too. So like, he's definitely taking a blueprint there, and that's with the feel of it. But like, I don't know, like you said, like this is throwbacky. It starts in a special, and then there's like a Superman special, but also like next parts in the next issue of Flash with just numbered it, and then this gives us an extra issue of Aquaman. So they're all going to have to be duking it out in different ways here, and I'm imagining it's going to be different team ups in every issue too, which should be pretty fun. I'm looking for, and I think at least from most of the ones I'm reading, it looks like Lanning and Mars are writing a lot of this. So it looks like it's all under one writer too, which is that's probably a plus. So no, yeah. I like this. I thought it was fun. I do agree though. Howard Porter's art was pretty rough in spots. Like I don't know what here. I think Flash Year One looked a lot better than this. Like that was some scenes were rough.
I think it's all Lanning and Mars across the whole thing. I think it's going to be 9 chapters total. I thought it was a lot longer, but I don't think so. I'll just say one more thing quickly is despite the fact that it seems like this is a filler event and everything like that, I was very pleasantly surprised to see that, they are hitting on certain things of very recent continuity. I mean, you mentioned one of the issues here is Aquaman after the Kelly Sue DeConnick run just ended. And Aquaman shows up here and is talking about, hey, I should be planning my honeymoon. I got to go, back to my wife and child. So, and that was, literally the last issue of Aquaman, which was like 1 or 2 weeks ago. So it was nice to see, whether that's on Landing into Mars or whether editorial was like, hey, let's sneak this in here. It was really nice to see that.
There's Superman commenting about the reveal of his identity too, which, I'm not a fan of that. But then also it looks like the Kryptonian crystals that were part of the old fortress are somehow souped up our ancient snow monster. So that's fun and kooky. And then also, for your curiosity, the current fortress is set in the middle of the Bermuda Triangle. That's where it's at now, which I think is also dumb. Dan, do you know who these characters are?
Yes, I do. And this book goes out of its way to really hammer you over the head with their current status. It's like, oh, while they're fighting, let's list everything that they're currently doing. So nobody ever, like, this was basically idiot proof, this issue. I feel like there was just so much backstory
was it in
to
a
these
bad
characters.
way?
And
no, I don't think it was.
I don't think it was too heavy-handed. I think it was a little bit in the beginning, but then it kind of settled down with the rest of the issue as we got on with the actual story. But I mean, I feel like sometimes you have to have that when you're starting off a new series like this. So that's kudos to DC for doing that. And yeah, the Flash thing, I feel like it was a little bit annoying because like he's basically going around to each person while they're fighting. He's like, "Tell me about your life. How you balance your life? How do you balance your life?" But like it really hits home once you actually like see him talk to Black Lightning and his family. It's like, oh, okay, well, that's kind of where we're heading towards. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'll probably follow suit with you guys. Just continue following this series. I think this is a good start to it, and the characters are nice. No one seems to be brooding except for Batman, who's always supposed to be brooding, but that's just his character. I love the comment too, where they're like, "How come he gets a really cool Arctic suit?" Thought that was funny.
I like that though. Like, I like that they're having fun with it. Like, Batman would be in an Arctic suit because his suit, he's got a normal costume on. Everyone else has got superpowers. Like, it does feel like throwbacky like that. Like, if you're watching a cartoon, like Batman would totally be in a snowsuit because he's got all the gadgets, which I mean doesn't really line up with continuity right now, where he's supposed to be like not as rich as he usually is. But I don't know, maybe he's got a spare snowsuit lying around. I had fun with this. I'm definitely continuing on with it. But gentlemen, one last book on our regular rundown. Let's and then we got the retro. So it's kind of a loaded show. Congratulations, everyone. You're getting a loaded show upon our return. But I'll go into King in Black, #1. Donny Cates, Ryan Stegman on pencils, JP Mayer on inks, Frank Martin on colors. And guys, this is your main event of the evening, at least for books that we're covering, because next week, next issues are retro. But this is King in Black #1. And this is the Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman mega event that ties into their Venom saga. It's been built up throughout all the books in the Marvel Universe. It's finally here. It definitely spins out of Absolute Carnage, which was an event we also enjoyed last year. Null is coming, and Eddie sends out the call to Cap and the rest of the Avengers that it's time to prep, and he seals Dylan away in one of the safe houses he's found for protection. And Eddie is, his plan is to sit on the Codex chair that Carnage had back in Absolute Carnage and try to control the symbiotes on Earth to fight Null as the Avengers kind of start evac. And they like a wall of debris of the spare ships and stuff that were left over from Empire to try to slow them down. And Null's forces just boom, they go right through it. So Null completely wipes them out. The X-Men show up at one point, like totally felt organic for them to show up. Like you could if you were watching this as like a cartoon or a movie, like when the X-Men showed up, I heard like the 90s X-Men cartoon theme in the head. Like it was that good of a reveal for me. And they're all kind of buying time as Tony Stark's waiting to send in the big gun, like their big power hitter, because like they know that Null is like he's got a weakness to lightning and like a couple other things, so they're like throwing out anyone that might have lightning powers or like elemental forces to try to slow him down. And eventually the Sentry shows up, and what happens to the Sentry is the same thing that he did to Ares in Siege, where he gets ripped in half immediately by Null, and then Null gets his hand on Eddie. And he's like, "You're not the Brock I'm looking for. I'm looking for Dylan." And he rips Venom off of him, and then drops him off a building. So Null is the Void, as he says here. And boom, what a beginning of an opening shot here. I'm genuinely excited for this event, and this has a blockbuster feel to me with the way it's open. I didn't have any of that with Empire. I have it here. And seeing the whole Marvel Universe have to get in on this right from the bat, I felt was done very organically, and it flowed really well. Like it felt like an event that the whole universe was like prepped for, and it wasn't just like everyone's off in their own corner while this happens. It felt like they were all working together instead of just like, oh well, Empire's happening, so we have to do our Empire thing. Like this felt built up and much more organically placed and paced, for that matter. Yeah, Ryan Stegman. Can we put like arguably the best Venom artist of all time at this point? We might have a contested agreement on that, or viewpoints, but man, his Venom's great, and he's great on this. He was great on Absolute Carnage. He was great at the beginning of Venom, and it's weird that Venom has now been at the forefront of the last 2 of the 3 big Marvel events, and this feels totally earned and makes sense for the series that Stegman and Cates have crafted out for this. I really enjoyed the opening issue of this. I'm excited.
It's almost like a meme that like Sentry got ripped apart again. Yeah. Like,
but also like
the whole
thing.
Didn't
he kind of like that he got ripped apart again too?
Yeah, it felt kind of satisfying to see that. I don't know. Poor Sentry though.
Yeah, I mean, overall, it's fun. I like it. It feels like a big blockbuster. But at the same time, and this feels bigger than Absolute Carnage in terms of the Marvel Universe, but at the same time, I think this feels more closely tied to the Venom series than Absolute Carnage did, if that makes any sense. Like, obviously I know Noel just from like reading comic headlines and stuff, and obviously he's been teased in things I have read, like Absolute Carnage, like Silver Surfer Black, or actually in them. But I feel like I'm missing just a little bit of the threads here, having not read Venom.
Yeah, they
Um,
built him up in Guardians too. He was been wiping
yeah.
out planets in the background of Guardians.
Um, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, Dan said like it kind of comes off as a meme, but I kind of cringed at the entire part featuring the Sentry. The fact that the Sentry is the big Deus Ex Machina that the Avengers call in, number one, and number two, that Noel then rips him up, and it's a complete retread of that scene. And I mean, Noel directly acknowledges it. I think it's interesting how, as far as I can tell, I mean, Iron Man and I guess Iron Man and Captain Marvel. I don't know who else. They're somewhere off, still around. But it's kind of low key set up that Spider Man kind of has to save the day as we move into the next issue. I think that's where we'll probably go, which is similar to Absolute Carnage, where Kate's made it more of a Spider Man and Venom book, which I think is a smart move when you take it to an event level title, for sales and for wider appeal. And then my other thing is Ryan Stegman drawing Cable as old Cable?
Who
Kind of
cares? It looked
unclear.
awesome. That's my point. Is who cares? It looked awesome.
Well, it looks awesome because it looks almost like it's old Cable, but I don't know. It's kind of ambiguous.
That whole double page splash when the X-Men show up it looks gorgeous. Like the whole book looks gorgeous, but that page in particular looked really, really great. So I guess like I would recommend you guys. Do you want to join me on this King in Black journey? Are you gonna hop on Venom with me as we trade off issues now with King in Black and Venom?
I don't know about Venom, but I'll keep reading King of Black.
Okay. I would be surprised that you wouldn't read Venom because the next part continuing this is Eddie's being dropped off a building. We got to find out what happens to Eddie next week, I think, or the next issue of that.
If
But
that's what's going to happen in Venom.
yeah. But, well, the next cover for Venom is him falling. But we also have the Kirk Busiek Namor one shot that spins out of this. That's set in the past, by the way. So it looks like they're having fun with these crossovers and tie-ins. So I think there's a decent amount of these tie-ins that we might also check out and read too. Uh, so we'll see how it goes, but I think definitely for me at least, I'm enjoyed King in Black more than the opening shot of Empire. So this is a big pass and a big plus from me. This is A plus stuff, and also A plus stuff. Vince, you had the retro book as we get into the final segment of the show before picks of the week.
Yeah, I forget what we had one or two runner-ups for the retro that I didn't land on. I went with this. I forget what they were. Those would have been very interesting here, but I knew that Dan and Mike were less familiar with this book, having not read the series. But we all know the creators, obviously BKV for the likes of Saga primarily. Plus, obviously we've read some of his superhero work, and I know Mike is very familiar with Tony Harris from Starman. And first, like literally off the bat, we have a Mayor LaGuardia anecdote about how he was reading the newspaper strips over the radio, which I'm certain that I mentioned that in our Pulp episode. I'm pretty sure, and I swear that's a coincidence. Obviously, I didn't read this issue ahead of recording that Pulp show, and also I will clarify for what it's worth for posterity that I didn't initially learn of that anecdote from this book. I'm sure I read it on Wikipedia, but a very interesting coincidence that that's how we open here. So the first page, actually, before we get the LaGuardia reference, is you see a dude in a suit next to a plane, and we basically just see the definition of the Greek, I believe, or it's got to be Latin, the Latin term Deus Ex Machina, which means it's like God inside the machine. And in literary terms, it's the thing that comes out of nowhere to fix the story, to win the battle, things like that. And we don't really get the full context of that, opening page until as we go along. It's kind of revealed in chunks. So we have a flashback to our young protagonist, Mitchell Hundred. And he's obsessed with superheroes, and he's reading an issue of Mike Grell's Warlord, which is interesting because this is I don't know how that works legally if you just sneaked out an Image book, and we're kind of seeing something similar in, Donny Cates crossover. But this book was originally published by Wildstorm under whatever weird imprint, where Wildstorm had sometimes there would be a Wildstorm book, which is essentially like a Vertigo book. So different printings of Ex Machina. Sometimes you'll see a Wildstorm logo. Maybe there's printings that have a Vertigo logo. Nowadays, I don't know if they put the stupid black label on it. But then in 2002, he's mayor of New York, and then we keep getting certain flashbacks as we see what led to that. So he has some ability to communicate with machinery, and he's able to stop an assassination attempt by jamming the assailant's gun with his mind. And there's conspiracy theories that he's an alien because, how the hell do those powers work? And then another flash to 1999 when he's a civil engineer and he meets up with a police officer, one of the patrolmen in the rivers of New York, in the Hudson Bay, or whatever. I'm not super accurate on my New York City geography. And there's something weird under the Brooklyn Bridge, and he reaches down and check it out, and his face gets all scarred up, and suddenly he can hear radios talking to him and things like that. And he gets his power, and he can basically communicate and control machines. So, whether it's the motor in your car or your cell phone or the electric grid, anything like that. And so he becomes a superhero, and he calls himself the Great Machine. And he does minor things. He's kind of not a great superhero. There's some idiot kids who get on top of the subway to ride it because they think it's cool. And he tries to save them, accidentally breaks one of their arms, and then they almost get hit by the train. So he stops the entire train system, which delays, all the commuting and transit in the city for half a day. And, he dabbles in it, but then he decides, all right, I'm going to give up this hero gig. It's kind of stupid, but I'm going to kind of parlay some of that minor celebrity status and everything like that. I want to run for mayor. And he works with a kind of a political, a city council member, helps him, teach him the ropes and get him in and everything like that. And then the full reveal in the end is that he put on the suit one last time, and he was able to stop the second plane on 9/11 from hitting the World Trade Center. So the World Trade Center, one of the two towers, still stands in this universe. And I think this is from 2004. I think this may be one of the most shocking or biggest probably final page teases / reveals in modern comics history. I think BKV, a lot of people say that he really excels at first issues, and I think this is definitely one of the examples, though I think this series stays pretty solid. But I'm very interested to hear more of your thoughts.
I would definitely agree. BKV does first issues very, very well. I've read Saga's first issue. That's a very good first issue. This is a very good first issue. And there's at least two other things by him that I've read where the first issues are very, very good. So I would definitely put this up as one of the best retro books we've read because it's a Brian K. Vaughan issue 1. Now, I'm not the biggest Brian K. Vaughan fan, but I did enjoy this very much. And also, it's fun to look at Tony Harris's art here and compare it to the beginning of Starman because there's differences to it for sure. But it was very good.
Yeah, and I have a few things to note there too. I mean, Paper Girls is another good example of a good first issue by Brian K. Vaughan. But yeah, I think it's interesting too to note that this whole retcon of not really retcon combat, like him saying that he saved one of the towers from that. This is only 3 years after that event occurred. Less than 3 years, actually. So
very bold.
Yeah, I was gonna say still fresh in a lot of people's minds, and also a little weird that he did not stop both of them. Also, kind of curious to see like how that affected like the whole event actually in the first place. Like, does it really lessen the impact that 9/11 has on the world? I don't know if that's really something that this book goes into that much, but yeah, I know that they came out with an omnibus for this a few years ago, right?
No, they came out with hardcovers, and I think it's the first book that's getting the. No, it did get an omnibus, but it's also getting the. You're right, Dan. It got one of those huge omnibuses that DC publishes that you can murder someone with because it's cute. Because I think it's 52 issues and like 4 specials.
Yeah, $50.
Yeah, and though I think this might be the first one that's getting that compendium treatment that DC's experimenting with.
I might pick it up then. We'll see.
Yeah. It got a humongous omnibus. It's probably like 1,600 pages or something, and I think it'll
book stand to read it.
I think they're squeezing it in 2 compendiums, and I think it's a decent way to pick it up. Otherwise, it's 5 thick paperbacks, and it was one of the ones where they had. I'm pretty certain they did the hardcovers and then they did the paperbacks. Whereas some of them, they did the hardcovers and then didn't do the paperbacks. Like that's what happened to Scalp.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is and I think this series is kind of underrated. And also, I'll just say on the Tony Harris point, I think as his career went on, he leaned more towards photorealism. Like there's this one book he did with Mark Miller. I think it's like an air fight, like it's like a jet pilot's book or something like that. And I'm pretty sure only like 2 issues came out, and then it just never, came out again. But like that series, I remember, that's probably at least 3-4 years after this, and he became a little bit more realistic. He did like 3 or 4 issues at the very end of Iron Man Volume 3, which Dan probably has in his collection. Do you have the disassembled trade?
Yes, I do.
Iron Man, yeah.
Oh, I guess that's around the time he did that Doctor Strange. No, that was 90s. I think he did that Flight of Bones thing.
Yeah, the Flight of Bones is probably like 99 because that's Marvel Knights.
Yeah.
And then he did a Spider-Man book probably like 10 years ago, a miniseries.
And then, obviously the big book being Starman. Sorry.
The Iron Man book, spoilers for 15-year-old Iron Man comics or even older. I believe in one of the issues Tony Harris draws is when his girlfriend dies, whose name I can't remember. The Asian girlfriend.
Is she from the music run?
Yeah. But yeah, we all enjoyed Ex Machina.
No, I don't feel like we talked about it. Like, no, it's a very, very good first issue. You should read it. This left me very, very much wanting to pick up the rest of the series because it's a very, very intriguing first issue that makes you really think of the implications of this. Now, this guy saved the second plane world of 9/11, and having grown up and now lived in that world, it might be fun to go back and kind of look and remember what the world was like at that point, now looking back and learning about it. But no, very, very good first issue. And gentlemen, picks the week.
Mine is Fantastic Four, Road Trip or whatever.
Yep, Road Trip, the one shot. Dan?
Gotta go with Daredevil number 25.
It's a solid pick.
What's better than 24? 25.
There you go. That was actually a perfect use of the SpongeBob reference. Very good, very good. I'm going King in Black. I alluded to it earlier in the show. Daredevil is my 1B, but King in Black is my 1A. I'll take the big blockbuster this week over the more serialized drama. Any other week, though, Daredevil 25 wins it. Interesting to note, as big as of a Tom King Batman fan I am, wasn't Batman Catwoman number 1 wasn't pick of the week. I was almost certain that book, when it was announced, was going to be my pick, but it was not. I think it would probably have it numbers number 4 after, because I put Fantastic Four above that Batman Catwoman number 1 too. It was a very solid week of books on a kind of huge return. We had 14 books and almost a 2-hour show, but thanks for sticking around, guys. And this is the part of the show where we get to the ending. This is the part where I tell you, hey, wash your hands and wear a mask when you go outside, because cases keep spiking in the holiday season as we approach what could possibly be a very long winter. But also, happy Thanksgiving to you guys. We said it last week. We'll say it to you again. But hopefully with that, that's all we got for this week. We'll have more stuff for you this week. Listen to the show, like, subscribe, do all the fun stuff. Be safe.